It was the year 2011. I was doing engineering in a college in Gurgaon. I was staying in a boys' hostel. And how funny is this? Engineering, boys' hostel, and we are watching a TED Talk. And I told my roommate, who's from Rohtak, from where I am, and I told him that one day I'll be on this platform and I'll share a talk, which will be my story. And he's like, yeah, zarur. So, Huda, I made it. Always wanted to click this too. Today, it's the year 2022, but I would like to forget this for a while. I would request all of you to forget this for a while. Let's all imagine that today is the year 1946. My great-great-grandfather, Mr. Sohan Singh, is in Pakpatan, current-day Pakistan, looking after his fields, wearing a white turban, a man of 6 feet and 4 inches. But there is a strange whisper in the winds that day that a country of great heritage and diversity is about to be divided. He's thinking, he's wondering that what if he has to leave all his friends behind? What if he has to leave his lands behind and move to a different region? He's scared. Little did he know that all his worst fears were about to come true. It was November of 1947. It had been a few months since Lord Mountbatten had announced the partition plan, and undivided India was not undivided anymore. It was divided into 2 parts, India and Pakistan. My great-grandfather, Sohan Singh, was on a train from Lahore to Delhi. And I still, to this very day, wonder what he was wondering while sitting in that train. This, what you see on the stage, is a document that many of the museums have chased me for. And this is an exclusive photograph for all of you. This is the migration papers of my great-great-grandfather. This paper, this writing on the paper is from 12th of December, 1947. This is as old. This is older than me. This is older than my father. Little did I know that this partition would play such a huge role in the upbringing of the generations that came after my grandfather. My father, an ex-BSF officer, would sometimes quote the great Nida Fazli, "Naksha lekar haath mein, bachcha hai हैरान, कैसे ढीमक खा गई उसका हिंदुस्तान." As a child, I would never understand what this couplet meant, but whenever I went to school, I would always recite this. While my classmates were grooving to the 90s Bollywood hits, I was reading Faiz. And sometimes, metaphorically, Faiz would visit me in my room and he would say, "Ye daag daag ujala, ye shab ghazida seher. Wo intezar tha jiska ye, wo seher to nahi." Thank you. My father would always tell me that Faiz was a complex person. He would hide the actual meaning of his poetry in his words. I could not understand them. But sometimes when my father would take time off from his duty as a soldier, we would visit our village and I would meet my grandfather. And I would cherish that time because I knew that now my grandfather will tell me more stories about the partition. Mind you, I was 12 or 13 years old at that point of time. For me, these were just fictional stories. But as I started growing up and started looking at these stories from a non-fictional perspective, that is when I realized that I cannot look at Pakistan as our so-called enemy. Because when I think of Pakistan, when I think of partition, I'm left with a sense of longing. A longing to visit my home on the other side of the border, which probably I'll never see in this life, but I have been told that it still stands at 151 EB, Pakpatan, Montgomery Road, West Punjab, undivided India. I started growing up and I started to realize that I've been living two lives all this while. One life that made my wallet happy, the other life that made my heart happy. And as the Gen Z slangs, which most of you know, YOLO, it took over me. It took me 3 years. It took me 3 years to realize that YOLO meant you only live once. And that the day I got to know about it, I resigned from my job because I was already tired and frustrated because I wanted to be the best network engineer in Ericsson. I didn't want to anymore. I resigned. I didn't even serve the notice period. And for the next 3 years, I started traveling. How it all started is an interesting story in itself. I did not know what I was about to do next after quitting my job. So one day I picked up my motorcycle, went to Shimla, and then a little further, went to Hatu Peak, Narkanda, and that's when I saw the sunset for the first time in 3 years. I realized, oh my God, this happens around me every day. I choose to ignore it. When I saw the sunset, I clicked a picture of it, posted it on Instagram, and it received more likes than my face. And then I was like, okay, this is the way it's about to be done. So I stayed there. I came back home. I picked up my motorcycle again. I told my father, you know what, now that I've quit my job, I think I should travel. And he said, huh? Coming from a middle class background, let me tell you what this huh means. This huh means, सुन लिया है मैंने. हिम्मत है तो एक और बार बोल के दिखा. उस दिन मैंने हिम्मत कर लिया. I told him that I want to travel. So I picked up my motorcycle, went to Himachal, told him that I will come back after a week, didn't come back for 3 months. I came back after 3 months. I met my friends and they told me, oh, you've been traveling for 3 months. I was like, no, I've not been traveling because my father used to get transferred every 5 years and we used to undergo the same process of making new friends, traveling to a new place. So this is nothing new for me. And they're like, oh, this is called traveling. I was like, all right. So I've been traveling. And then when I came back, I realized that I've started to develop this feeling of disconnect. Disconnect with my family, disconnect with my room, disconnect with all the things that I've done so far. And I think that's when I realized it's time to head back again. So I started traveling again. I started meeting people. I started collecting stories. I started writing lengthy captions on Instagram. People started liking them. And before I could realize, this became a lifestyle. Sometimes I would not even brush my teeth in the morning. I would wear my helmet, go to the next pit stop, and that is where I would brush my teeth. And that is exactly where I would decide the destination I would head to. I never had a prefixed destination in my mind. I always liked surprises. Life, just like a transverse wave, also has its ups and downs. When I was traveling, I thought I was at a high. Now, it was about time for me to hit my rock bottom. I've changed the second picture. The second picture is after 3 days. I woke up in the hospital. I wanted to show some other picture, but we need a trigger warning for that. So I did something. I did something that I shouldn't have done. You know why? Because on 24th of September, which is today, 5 years back, I lost my elder brother to mental health. 3 months later, I lost my grandmother. And I had never suffered loss in my life before. I didn't know how to process it. So I started staying alone. I started isolating myself. I woke up in the hospital. I looked at my father. He was sitting right next to me with tears in his eyes, and a strange sense of guilt took over me. I told him, Papa, I'm sorry for what I have done so far, but I'm going to reset my life. I'm going to give it a fresh start. And he's like, whatever you want to do it. I'm with you. He did not say, hey, again. So, borrowed 5,000 rupees from a friend of mine, filled up an Australian university's form. I was good in academics, got a scholarship there, went to Australia. For the first 2 days, did not eat anything. You know why? Because I never actually thought about it, that for the first time, I'm about to be an outsider. You know, sometimes how we casually pass remarks towards people who look different than us, other color, other race. Not cool. Shouldn't be done. Because when I was an outsider, I did not eat for 2 days. I was scared. And an empty stomach makes a man a menace. Eventually stepped outside. You know, it was a struggle. Slowly started feeling like an equal, and then gradually had to find a job. So I thought, being an officer's child, always studied in a convent school with a bachelor's degree, with work experience, it should be easy, but it wasn't. Eventually, I was standing in a pub in Australia with a mop and a broom in my hand, cleaning the vomit and puke of other people. And that is when I realized that I was very entitled, being an officer's child. But I don't know. As I said, an empty stomach makes a man a menace. I had to feed my stomach. I kept doing it. I did not tell my father. My father would sometimes call me and he's like, "What are you doing?" I would tell him that, I got a job in the university. I have to call up international students, convince them to join the university, and I think I have to sit on a chair in front of a computer all day long, and it's all good. He bought it. From being a cleaner, I got another opportunity. Again, as a cleaner. I had to clean a supermarket. The shift timings were 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, 7 days a week. If you have fever, you work. If you want to take a day off, no leaves. So for 9 months, I worked 7 days a week, 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then one contract to another, I got an opportunity again as a cleaner in a government office. I still remember, and I've got screenshots. I wish I could show you the screenshots there. I used to walk 30,000 steps in a day. Those 30,000 steps, one night when I got home, I put my feet down on the ground and I screeched in pain because my soles would hurt. I had never known this kind of pain before. But I could not give up because I made a promise to my father that I'm going to restart. I'm going to refresh my life. And I'm going to make something out of myself. So I kept on going, kept on going, kept on going. And one day there was a vacancy in the office. You know, beggars can't be choosers, and when you already have nothing, you got nothing to lose as well. So I applied. I cracked the interview. Not only did I crack the interview, but I was placed second in the list of qualified candidates in the same office. That is me sitting outside that office with a cleaner liquid and some tissue papers. This is me working as a trolley boy, and this picture is from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. shifts. So I cracked that interview, got that job, from a cleaner in the office to a licensing officer in the same office in Australia. And one day when I was talking to my manager, she told me that, you know what? You're the first student on a temporary visa to get a government job in Australia. That day I called up my father. I told him, "Hey, Papa, licensing officer, and this is my salary package. I hope you're proud of me." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm very proud of you." That made my day. Slowly, I had to visit Sydney town, Sydney town for official purposes. And one night when the train was about to enter, Circular Quay is a station in uptown Sydney. When you look towards your right, you see a magnanimous structure of iron, which is called the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which I had only seen in the movies. So I saw the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I wrote for the first time in 3.5 years, I wrote कि अरसों बाद मिला हूँ रकीब से, तो जल उठा है महबूब मेरा, बड़ी सादगी से करता है इजहार मोहब्बत, जब भी करता है महबूब मेरा. When you listen to these lines, these seem romantic. But my father taught me how fairs things, so it is not romantic. Rakib is a competition. That competition is what I was. Mehboob is me, what I am today. So basically these lines mean that the person I was is jealous of the person that I have become because the person that I am today loves me so much. Fell in love, had my fair share of heartbreaks, fell in love with a girl from the other side of the border, and you know what? When love leaves you, it gives you gifts if it is true. This love gave me a gift of writing, and that girl, while she was leaving, told me that you should not stop writing, and I made her a promise. The governments can stop me from coming to your country, but they cannot stop my voice to reach yours. It took me 2 years. I became the voice of her favorite brand. She told me to do a stage show in Delhi. I came back to India, resigned from my government job, because when you love from your heart. You give it your all. I came back to Delhi, did my first show, was sold out in 1.5 hours. And then I got up on the stage for the first time, something that I had been wanting to do for so long. There were times when I was down and out. I turned to Rahat Indori Saab, and he told me, शाखों से जो टूट जाएं वो पत्ते नहीं हैं हम, आंधियों से कोई कह दे कि औकात में रहे. And when I was up the next morning, I would pick up Colonel T.E. Lawrence, and he would teach me that beware of the dreamers of the day, because they may act on their dreams with their eyes wide open, and I am a dreamer of the day. And lastly, I would like to end this talk with a few lines of my own which define my journey till this point onwards and from this point onwards. And I hope you learn something from them. मुझे दो इतनी उलझने के जीतने में जान लगे. मुझे दो इतनी उलझने के जीतने में जान लगे, और फिर जब ख्वाब लिखूं तो पूरा आसमान लगे. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You have been amazing. Take your life one day at a time.